Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how I focus stack in the field with live subjects. So the key to getting handheld focus brackets of live subjects in the field is to keep the distance from your front of your lens and the subject the same. For example, this is my subject. Usually I'd grab what the subject is on, so say it's on the end of this leaf, and I'd keep the distance the same by grabbing that and then resting the end of my lens on my thumb like that, or just on any other finger on my hand. And then I can slowly bring my camera backwards and forth to get those frames. Or I can use bracketing mode, which the Olympus has, where I just keep the distance the same, keep the camera still, and then just hit the shutter and it'll start that bracketing sequence. And the best way to get stable, in my opinion, is to kneel down and then have your hand with your camera resting on your knee like that, or your thigh. And then you can also do both hands like that, or if you want to hold the thing because you have the opportunity to, then have the one hand on. And then as you can see, I'm just using these fingers to pinch the thing, resting it on my thumb, and there it's in focus and it's dead still now. So as long as the subject's still, then I'll get a nice stack there. I've had it a few times where a subject's in a tree and I can't physically hold what the subject's on. In that case, you just want to hold your camera still with the camera straps like this and just position your arms so it's stable. So usually bringing them in to your chest like that is a great way to get stable. And then what you want to do there is just physically rock back and forth rather than doing that, because you want to keep that stable like that. And to make things a lot easier for yourself, I'd come out early in the morning or even at night, because that's when subjects are a lot more still. Right now it's about, what time is it? 7 in the morning, which is when bugs are a lot more still. So yeah, I'll show you those techniques on an actual live subject now. Right, so right here we've got a little beetle and it's on the end of this grass. And if I was just to shoot this without grabbing it, as you can see, it's blown around in the wind slightly. So it's going to be really hard to get a stack there. So what you want to do, like I said, is grab the grass it's on, and I'm kneeling down to get more stable. I'm going to grab it like that. And I'm going to shoot in manual at the moment rather than bracketing mode, because I know people shoot on other camera systems and they don't have bracketing that syncs with the flash. So I'll show you how you do that first. So as I said, you want to keep the distance between your subject and the lens the same, like so, by resting my thumb on the end of my lens. I'm actually going to shoot slightly less magnified for this shot. I was shooting at 1:1 with the Rainox, but now I'm going to take the Rainox off and just shoot at 1:1. Another thing to consider is that the less magnified you are, the less shots you need to stack, and the more magnified you are, the more shots you're going to need to stack. And it depends on the composition you get as well, on how many frames you need. And settings wise, I usually shoot on f7.1 for 1:1 shots, anything around there. And as you can see at the moment, I'm actually using my thumb to hold it and I'm resting it on the side of my hand like that. So what I'm going to do now is focus just before the subject starts, and then I'm going to move the grass towards me rather than bringing the camera closer to the subject while taking those frames. So I'm just going to do a few tries of this just to make sure I've got all those frames. And it's totally up to you how many frames you want to get and how much of the subject you want in focus. For this demonstration, I'm going to try and get everything in focus. Now the subject started moving a little bit there just after I got the stack. So if you start a stack and it starts moving, you can just cancel it and then wait till it stops moving again, and then you can start again. Because if the subject moves while you're doing the stack and then you try to stack all those images, it's going to come out like a mess. You need the subject to be perfectly still. Now obviously there'll be things like the antenna or maybe arms moving, which you can get away with and fix in Photoshop, but it's going to be a bit of a pain to edit that. So ideally you want the subject to be perfectly still. Right, if you have an Olympus or another camera that has bracketing mode that syncs with the flash, then I'll show you how I do that as well. This is my preference for focus stacking just because it's a lot easier. and I'll show you why it's easier now. So like the last method, you had to move in and out, like physically move in and out like that. But with this, you just gotta rest your hand on the end of the lens, get stable, focus just before the subject starts, and then you just keep still and press the shutter. And then I press the shutter again to end the bracketing sequence. Now, say for example, you can't kneel down like that, you can't grab whatever the subject is on. So say for example, like this was really high up in a tree or something and I literally could not grab it, then the best thing to do then is just have your camera strap like this and just stretch it out like that. Now this stacks, it's going to be a lot harder to get stacked like this, but it might be the only way you can get a shot. So, and I'd definitely recommend going on manual rather than using bracketing. It's because when you're using 1/50 shutter speed and there's a lot of movement, you're more likely to get a blurry shot. So yeah, I'm stretching out the camera strap and I'm just going to rock back and forth and hold the shutter. Yeah, all you can do really when you can't hold the thing that the subject's on, the best thing to do is just rock back and forth and keep your camera stable with the camera strap. You want to try and get each individual frame evenly, but obviously as you can see, like it's blowing in the wind a little bit, so it's going to be a bit messy. And when it comes to stacking later on, you're going to have to pick out the frames individually and it's going to be a lot harder, but you know, sometimes that's the case. Yeah, just to mention, bracketing mode limits you to 1/50 shutter speed, and this is because when using flash, you have to sync to the flash, and because using electronic shutter when in bracketing mode, the sync speed is 1/50 on this camera anyway. Some cameras go to 1/100, I believe. And then when using manual mode, it's using mechanical shutter, which means you still have to sync to the flash, but you can use a much higher shutter speed. My camera has a max sync speed of 1/250 shutter speed, so it's pretty decent for getting crispy shots. But generally, if the subject's not moving and the distance between you and your subject is staying the same, 1/50 shutter speed is fine. And the flash is what freezes the motion anyway, a lot of the time, as long as natural light isn't overpowering your image and the flash is what's lighting the image. So you might be thinking, why don't you just use a tripod? Because if you use a tripod, you know, it's going to be proper stable, it won't move. And the reason I don't do that is because it's just a lot of hassle to set up the tripod, and by the time you set it up, the subject's gone. Now you might be thinking, like, you know, you come out in the morning, like this beetle hasn't been moving the whole time I've been here. You can just set up the tripod, but then you've got to try and like pin down the bit of grass it's on, and that takes ages. So honestly, I find it totally fine just to grab the grass it's on and do a handheld stack. It's a lot easier, a lot quicker, and it's the results are just as good as using a tripod. But to summarize, the key thing is just to keep the distance between you and your subject the same and make sure everything's stable and not moving, because then you can control each frame you get and have a lot more control over your image. Yeah, I think I'm going to call it there for today's video. So I hope I explained everything well, and if you have any questions, any further questions, just leave them in the comments and I'll try my best to answer those. But with all that said and done, make sure to leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.